Hi, this is Clarity Coach Lucy, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. Welcome to the Mindful May series. Now, this is a series that focuses on your mental wellness. So you want to keep it tuned in here for the next few Tuesdays of the month of May. The episodes that I'm going to be bringing you, today we start with mindful awareness. It's all about self-awareness. And then we bring you into a session of management of your mindfulness. Remember, it is Mindful May. This is what we are celebrating this month. It's all about your mental wellness. And then it's on motivation that we go in as our third episode. Episode 3 will be taking us through the motivation to remain mindful. It's never that easy. It gets a bit difficult because there's so many things that we have to unlearn. And as we are unlearning those things, what is our intention? What are we focusing on? This is the beauty about being in that state of mindfulness. Then we move on to empathy. I absolutely love empathy, and I hope that you will be with me during that time, which is now our episode 4, when we are going through empathy, so that you can understand how to start with empathy for self first before you move on, just so that we can build up on our mental wellness through mindfulness. And then last but not least, we'll be looking at social skills. How then do I show up in public? And public, read here. We're talking about you showing up in areas of your social media. We're talking about you showing up in areas in person. We're talking about you showing up when you're writing emails or texting. So this is in social skills, mindfulness. It's going to be an amazing May, and I hope you are going to take this journey with me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how these episodes are touching you. And of course, I also love to hear what your take is, because with every episode, I leave you with 3 takeaways. So I do hope that as you join me today, you are coming here with a lot of open-mindedness so that you can be aware of self. In this session, we seek to know what it takes to be self-aware as we stay true to mindfulness towards healthy mental wellness. We do realize worldwide today that's just having that mental health is already having wealth in our lives, because this is where it all starts. It all starts in our minds. It starts as thoughts, and then when we have these thoughts, they become words, and when they are words, they become actions, and when they are actions, we hope that they become habits. So it is my hope that whatever thoughts that we will be having towards mindfulness and mental wellness, it's going to be positive. Thoughts that are going to grow us. Thoughts that are going to move us from where we are to become even better versions of ourselves. And because all this is happening internally, we need to have self-awareness. We need to have that internal validation before we even seek external validation, because external validation has its place. It is a good thing. But where we need to start from is with internal validation, so that we can recognize when the external validation comes, and whether it is one that is aiding our mental wellness or whether it is clipping our wings, making us feel like we are not worth it, we should not show up, shutting out our lights, and we can go on and on about that. But back to mindfulness. You see, mindfulness is an intention in which the focus is on you being aware of what you're sensing, what you're feeling. You're being aware of it. It's like you're calling in all your 5 senses to this moment where you are here and now. And then that mindfulness, which comes with this intention, it also comes without interpretation, and it comes without judgment. Because when it comes from that place, it is coming from authenticity. Oh, I love this word. With authenticity, you are able to show up without shame. You are able to say, this is who I am. And I have worked on myself, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress today. Now, practicing mindfulness involves, like I said, being aware of self. And of course, we are human beings, and our nature is emotional. It is the emotions that drive us. Did you know that? And did you also know that it is our brain that is giving meaning to our physical sensations? So whatever it is that you're going through, your brain gives meaning first by sending an emotional signal. That's what you receive first. It's like as if all the static in your body is going towards emotions. And therefore, it's making sense of your physical sensations based on past experiences. And therefore, we keep on going back to, I know this feeling. This is what happened before. If this happens, then this is what's going to happen to me. So if you start hearing some music playing, already your body, or sorry, I beg your pardon, your mind is sending the signals from past experiences. In my case, my past experiences with music is one of joy, one of fulfillment. I can relate to music. I mean, in my past life, I must have been a singer, a producer, a songwriter, a poet. So for me, when I hear music, the emotion that my brain registers, even before it registers that this is indeed music we're listening to, if that makes sense. But I guess you know where I'm going with this. I experience emotions of joy, of happiness. I've got this smile on my face. In fact, if I am sitting in a place where I know I can blast that song, that's what I do. And if it's a song that I love so much, I keep on playing it over and over and over again because of the joy, the emotion that it gives me. So my brain is registering my physical sensation, which is now my ears hearing or identifying that is music. I hope we are together and this is making sense. So the question is, are you aware of yourself? Are you aware that at times things happen and therefore certain emotions come out? I'm talking about triggers, and I'll touch on that in one of the tools that I'm giving you as a hack that you will be able to apply your self-awareness to your mindfulness so that you're mindful this May and that you can build on your mental wellness. Well, a widely accepted theory of basic emotions and their expressions developed by a gentleman by the name of Paul Ekman, and you can look him up. Paul Ekman, Ekman. Paul Ekman, he suggests that we have 6 basic emotions. There is sadness and there is happiness. There is anger and there is fear. And then there is surprise and there is disgust. Now, for whatever reason that he came up with them as 6 basic emotions, this is a construct from which we will be building on today, because then it makes it easier to deal with fewer emotions for now as we move forward with our sessions today. Now, coming to face with your emotions at times can be very scary. It can be overwhelming. It can be intimidating. Perhaps you know that anger is your thing. That's the emotion. This is what happens to you. You seem to just, gear off or veer off or just end up in anger. And you keep on saying, why am I angry all the time? This is you coming face to face. You're calling it by name. And do not be so annoyed with yourself or angered with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself, because what you have done is you have identified that this is the emotion that gets you. Many people don't even have that realization. So already give yourself a pat on the back and say thank you to yourself, because you have already identified that particular emotion in your life. And clearly, once you do, you will want to do something about it. Now, it can easily be an opportunity, on the other hand, for you just to ignore it. So I get annoyed all the time. Forget it. It's me. It's the way I was brought up. My family, we shout, we are angry. This is who I am. But then you listen to your body and you're not at one when there's anger. In fact, you do not feel fulfilled at all. You feel like there's something that you want to take care of in your life to better yourself. Well, you've taken the first step. That is the good news. And you've already identified that anger is the one that does it for you. And therefore, anger needs your attention. Do not brush it under the rug just because you want to please others. Do not brush it under the rug just because you want to wish it away. Because what I will say to you, the more you brush it under that rug, you are setting up yourself for a future disaster, because you know it will rear its ugly head at one point, and when you least expect it, it will come out at some point. And I suggest that you take control of it now that you know it is an emotion that you want to work on. The when, the where, and the how it comes out, you will have control over it. As opposed to you brushing it under the rug, covering the rug, and putting furniture on top of it, there's a day it is going to explode. And this is a true story. If you have not exploded already. And then you start asking yourself, who was that? That wasn't me. Where did that come from? It came from underneath the rug, guys. You had been pushing it there so much. So in today's session, as I have promised you, I will share with you two main areas that when practiced, let it not be theory, because knowledge is useless if you do not make use of it, if you do not practice it, then it's just filling up your head. Fill up your head with knowledge that you can apply. So when practiced, it will help you control the when, the where, and the how of your emotions. You actually have the power, the superpower to shift your emotional state. It's just that you've not tapped into it. And I know it sounds like very zen things that I'm telling you right now, but coming from me, Lucy, I have experienced this and I use this. In fact, this place right here on my shoulder is where I felt my emotions. That is where I felt the physical sensations. Whenever I was pushing things under the rug was there, but this is where I felt it. So maybe you are feeling it somewhere else. Maybe for you it's the small of your back. Maybe for you it's your tummy. Maybe you get a headache. You're not aligned. There's something you've pushed under the rug, and I'm encouraging you today to go under that rug, look for it, call it out, and be able to deal with it, because you've taken the first step. You've already called it by name. So we're going to jump straight into it, and we're going to look at the different levels of self-awareness towards mindfulness, towards a better mental wellness. And the first one is emotional self-awareness. And I've already broken it down for you and explained to you how Paul Ekman came up with the 6 basic emotions. But what is emotional self-awareness by definition? It is the ability to understand your own emotions. I'll say that again. Emotional self-awareness is the ability to understand your own emotions and to understand the effects of those emotions on your lives. So, does it mean that it is on the life of your performance? There it is. Is it on the life of how you show up? There it is. On the life of your relationships, of how you study in school, how you have internal dialogue, whatever it is, you've got to recognize that these emotions are real. And if you remember, I was just telling you that it is your brain's way of just relating to the physical sensations that you're experiencing and using past experiences. That's what emotions are. So what is it for you? What is it that gets you going into an emotional self-awareness state? For me, I'm hoping that once you get into the habit of identifying these emotions, your interactions will be more meaningful. And in today's world, we want to be mindful. Why? Because we are cosmopolitan. We are not living in our own bubble where everybody thinks the same, does the same, dresses the same, talks the same. You could be in an environment right now as you're listening to this, and you will have people whose understanding of things is very different. They have different perspectives. But you are thriving in that space because you are bringing yourself to the table and you are sharing who you are. And therefore, are you self-aware? Are you speaking of yourself, of something that you know about yourself? Or are you speaking of something that you read on Google that told you who you should be? Or something that your parents told you should be? Or something that your peers are telling you? Or perhaps in your work area, how people want you to behave in a certain way. So this helps you to have mindfulness in today's world where we are all cosmopolitan. Every place that we enter, we meet different people from different religions and creed and color and beliefs and value systems. We have to be mindful with our language, the way we show up, and so that we can be true to our own authentic selves as to how we are going to speak. So Paul Ekman talked about the 6 basic emotions, and this then does not know color, creed, it does not know values, it doesn't know anything, it just knows that you're a human being and you have emotions. And if you remember what they were, there was sadness, there was happiness, there's fear, there's anger, there's surprise, and there's disgust. Now these are the main themes. It breaks down, don't get me wrong, it breaks down and there are so many emotions that we can look at. Well, I'm just going to share with you 2 things that I have done that have helped me to be aware of my emotional self. Just to be aware. And one thing that I started was journaling. But before I get to journaling, I encourage you, if you don't already have a book on emotions, yeah, thank you so much, Wanderlust Reminiscence. I absolutely love that you're having your aha moments already. So lovely to hear that. So I was talking about where you can get a list of emotions. It could be from a book that you're reading. It could be something you already have studied or you've been in a training and you've listed those out. You know what the hack is? Just go and Google emotions. And then look at all those emotions, copy and paste them somewhere. What does this do to you? It makes you realize how many emotions are out there. Remember how we talked about 6 here? There are so many emotions out there that when somebody asks you, what emotion are you feeling right now? Then you are able to pick from this entire bank. All right, so now that we have emotions and we've got them listed out somewhere, you've saved them on your phone, on your laptop, or if you're somebody who likes to journal by writing, then you've saved them there. Also, you've written them down. And there's something powerful about writing down something. You tend to remember it more. But moving on about journaling. Why journaling? And how journaling? So what I did is I took it upon myself to start to journal the emotions that I experienced, because there were times in my life when I was just yo-yoing and I didn't even know it. I was moving from one emotion to the other. We have different seasons in our lives. It took me attending a training to be able to know that I can journal my emotions, and I'm sharing this information with you. So start in the morning. When you get up in the morning, what are the emotions that you're experiencing? Is it anticipation for the day? Is it dread for the day? Is it excitement? What is it that you're feeling? Write it down. And as you write down this emotion, be compassionate with yourself, because it could be an emotion that you do not want to be associated with. But the things on the ground are different, guys. If you're Kenyan, you understand what I mean. This is how I'm feeling today. Put it down. List them down in the morning, first thing in the morning. Go about your work. So maybe mid-morning, come back and start listing again. List. Midday, list. Afternoon, list. In the evening, list. In the evening, list. You will then have a whole list of emotions that you can refer to. And you begin to look at these emotions and you want to identify the triggers. When I was feeling the anxiety first thing in the morning, what was triggering those feelings? On the first day, it might not be easy, but now that you have emotions and you're already thinking about the question of what is the trigger, tomorrow is another day. Start off with your journaling. And as you put down the word, put down the trigger. What do you think was triggering that word? And slowly throughout the week, this paper, this phone, this diary, these full of words is going to start making sense for you. You're going to start connecting things together and knowing that with happiness, these are the different triggers. With sadness, these are the different triggers. With disgust, these are the different triggers. With surprise, these are the different triggers. Guess what you're doing? You're creating your own bank. You're beginning to get more emotionally self-aware. So that's journaling, and it works for me. The second one is observation. Observation is powerful. But this observation is different. It has a twist to it. And what I would love for you to do, and you're going to love this. In fact, it'll surprise you so much, you're going to wonder why you never did it before. Observe your behavior. Not anybody else's behavior. Observe your behavior. Now, let me give you a context that you can do it in. I beg your pardon. I belong to groups on WhatsApp, groups in person. Now, some of the groups that I belong to are groups for learning spaces. And with learning spaces, we are all there for different reasons. And I have realized that my characteristic is that when I show up somewhere, when I sign up to learn something, I show up 100%. In fact, 110%. I'm not that kind of individual who shows up and then keeps quiet. So I engage, I interact, I comment, I share. Maybe I'm one of those people in the group people do not like. But this is how I show up. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. What am I doing there? I want to exercise and engage with the learning. So if you're in this kind of a group like me, take a moment and look what happens in the group and how you respond to it. I get annoyed. I get so annoyed, super annoyed, when I find people in the groups that I'm in keeping quiet. A question has been asked, and then it's radio silence. And then I started to feel that I was one of the few people who kept on answering questions. And then when I answered these questions, I just realized people, in fact, now would not even speak. They would keep quiet. So I began watching my own behavior. And I realized that I was being dismissive. I realized I was being critical. I realized I was showing my anger. And this was coming through in the tone of the things that I was posting, in the way that I shared, in the way that I then used emojis. I was observing my behavior. And it was my behavior that was making people feel that they did not to be part. Already they were not being part of it, they were not being present. But the way I showed up, it blocked out people. I hope I'm speaking to somebody and you can relate to me. You know there's a Lucy in your group, or maybe you're the Lucy in that group. Well, this does not encourage mindfulness. And that's why this particular session today is very important, that we are able to observe our own behaviors and see how it is that we show up. Well, that's the second one, journaling and observing. We are still on emotional self-awareness. The other one is the how. And the how is knowing when those emotions are welling up. When are you beginning to get these emotions? You can tell when these emotions begin to come up only if you are self-aware, and you can make a decision whether you will let them in or not. Let's talk about anger. Now, just like fats in your body, and I'm digressing, but please bear with me, I'm going somewhere with this. Just like fats in your body, there are good fats and there are bad fats. If you did not know, you know today, you can look it up. So just like anger, just like those fats, with anger, there's good anger and there's bad anger. So you can choose to be angry at something and post out of anger with the intention of growing people. You are so angry with what is happening in your environment that you're doing something about it. In my country, there's change.org. That was somebody who got angry by a certain injustice and then started change.org. You see, that is a positive change in your life. The bad anger is getting so annoyed the way I did, and then mindfulness goes out of the window. So I hope we are together, that you are able to understand. Hello, Nancy, I can see you there. Good afternoon. I hope you are able to understand what emotion you choose to let in and which one you choose to leave out. You have the power to shift that emotional state. You can feel the anger coming in. So for me, in those groups, when the anger begins to well up, I beg your pardon, I use the example of putting my hand over a hot stove. How long can you have your hand over a hot stove? You can't have it there for long. You take your hand off. So for me, the anger comes on. I start to feel it welling up and I kill it. I replace it with something else. And because I have a whole bank of emotions, I replace it with understanding, with patience. I hope we understand where I'm going with this, and I'm speaking to somebody. But first, you have to identify the onset of this emotion. You have to be self-aware. You need to be aware of your own surroundings. We move on to number 2, which is accurate self-assessment, because now we finished with the emotional self-awareness. Now, accurate self-assessment is amazing. It's about the process of identifying your inner resources. This is all about you, not about somebody else. Your inner resources is about identifying your abilities, your capabilities. It's about acknowledging and accepting your limits, because we all have limits. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. So we have things that we are good at and things that need improvement, that we need to work on. And when I talk about accurate self-assessment, it's about that desire to receive feedback. And that can be a very daunting task, that you're reaching out to people and asking them, what do you think about me? Well, as a coach, I'm always asking this question, and I send out review forms or links, and I ask people to comment on what it is that they have experienced with me and what they think. And even here right now, I would be asking for your feedback. Please drop for me here in the chat what you think about what you're hearing today, whether really mindfulness can be around self-awareness, whether really we can improve our mental wellness by having these kind of sessions. So back to what I'm talking about. It is the ability to receive and welcome feedback. It is the ability to have new perspectives, looking at something from a different angle, understanding where somebody else is coming from. It is that ability to desire continuous learning and self-development. Now, this is that beauty. This is what accurate self-assessment is. And accepting our limiting beliefs, like I said, is not easy, because it comes in the form of the inner critic. It comes in the form of self-doubt, in the form of guilt, self-guilt, self-talk, where you are putting yourself down. You're having a conversation with yourself, and you're not even giving yourself a chance to get your foot through that door. You have killed the story even before you leave the door. But once you understand where they are coming from, where these limitations are coming from, it gets so much easier for you to change your narrative, to be more self-aware. You want to look up this name, Dr. Bruce Lipton. You want to look him up because he's got an amazing scientific approach of reprogramming your mind. You want to look that up. We do not have enough time on our session for this. Now, in my coaching sessions, this is just a practical way of carrying out the reviews, and something you can try out. I actually do, in one of my activities, I list 10 values of self, and I encourage my coachees to do the same. And how do we do this? We go through the self-assessment, we go through the role model assessment, and we go through the feedback assessment. So we start off with the feedback, and I encourage you to go and speak to 3 people, and you ask them to give you 2 words each that would describe you. These are positive words that are values to describe you. Once you get that, those will be 6 words. Then you go to your role model and you look at your role model. You're not talking to your role model. You have a perception of your role model, and you pick out 2 values that you admire in your role model. Add those 2 values to the 6. You've already collected, you have 8. Now the last one is a self-assessment, and that one you can do right now. I would love for you to just take a moment and think about 2 words that are values, that are positive words that describe you. Maybe the word that you have today is abundant. Maybe the word you have today is mindful, because this is what we're talking about. Maybe the word you have today is understanding. Maybe it is adventurous. Now, whatever word you have written down, for the sake of today's session, just write down 1 word, or think about, manifest 1 emotion, for 1 value for yourself. Now, I want you to feel that word. If it was abundance, how does abundance feel for you? When you hear the word abundance, do you feel it in your body, in your physical sensations? Do you feel it in your 5 senses? Do you see yourself as being abundant? When is it you were last abundant? How did that look like? Do you see yourself in that word? Apart from that, how does it make you feel? That word, abundant, how does it make you feel? And here's the question for the day. Is it you? Does it describe you? And if it doesn't, that is okay. That is the 101 of self-awareness. What has just happened here is you have identified that you have been using a word to describe yourself that doesn't belong to you. So who does it belong to? It most probably belongs to your peers. They've been talking about it all the time, so you, by association, you felt you were abundant. It could be your parents as you grew up. This is the word they kept on saying. You must be abundant. You must be abundant. Sharing is caring. This is what we always tell our children. We need to be abundant. We need to share whatever it is that we have. But somehow this was not gelling. Maybe you are a frugal person. It's okay. You're now discovering that you are not abundant. You're more at home with being a frugal person. That means if it comes to matters money and spending things, you're frugal. Maybe you're a careful person. By the time you're making a decision, there's a lot of due diligence that comes in. And you're not taking any judgments or taking anybody prisoner. You're deciding, I cannot do this because I'm a careful person. That does not mean that you're not a good person. But abundance was being pushed down your throat because whoever was pushing it down your throat is abundant by nature, and they're loving it and they want to share with you. They are coming from a good place. You just have to figure out, am I abundant? Maybe I am a patient person. I am not an abundant person. Maybe I am somebody who is an introvert. I want to be on my own. So figure it out for yourself. I hope I've given you something to start off, and you realize that you're not living somebody else's life. You're living your own life. It is somebody else who is supposed to be abundant, and it's not you. Does not mean that you cannot learn to be abundant if you super love this value. So that is an exercise that I carry out for accurate self-assessment. And as we come to the end of our session, I know it's gone so fast today. In conclusion, I quote Daniel Goleman, and I shall read, "If your emotional abilities are not in hand, if you do not have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you cannot have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far." That is Daniel Goleman's quote, and I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways. How to be mindful through emotional self-awareness. I beg your pardon. Number 1, identify and journal your emotions. Number 2, identify your triggers. Number 3, be aware of your capabilities and your limitations. Remember, you have the ability to shift your emotional state. Use it. The recording of this episode will be up and available on my YouTube channel by this evening, lmcconsultancy.com. I beg your pardon, LMC Consultancy. I am giving away a copy of my book this month of May. And all you have to do is subscribe and like my YouTube channel. Help me to get to 500 subscribers. Now, once you do that, and maybe you've shared with somebody and they have subscribed, just direct message me on IG at lucy.macridis for a chance to win my book. You go into the draw, and I'll be having the draw at the end of the results at the end of May. Help us to get to 500 subscribers. I want to be able to come live to you on YouTube. Our self-paced courses are available on our website, www.lmcconsultancy.com. So to access, just go and get your Discover You and your customer service. Episode 2 is all about managing your mindfulness. I beg your pardon. You don't want to lose that, and you don't want to miss it either. Let us help build each other. Until then, be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye now.